Sure, why not?
All right, well, good. Let's do episode 6 of the Brake Check Show. We have some fun topics for you tonight. We have Brian, they've been waiting for it. We've been waiting for it. Everybody's been waiting for it. The Mustang Mach-E was in the Brake Check garage.
Wait.
About that.
But that's not a Mustang.
We'll talk about that.
Exactly.
We've got Texas sports cars, and we'll explain what that means. We have fun with comments, new segment. I think it should be entertaining. And cars you wish your dad never sold. Of course, we have the same dad, so it'll be interesting if we have different cars here. Well, with that, Brian, let's just call it polarizing vehicle.
Or magnetizing.
Or electrifying Mustang Mach-E. We drove it.
We did.
And video's up. It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's the latest one we have. We've got it has not been out very long, but there are a lot of comments.
Oh boy. Look, Craig, we've off camera debated a lot about which car is the most polarizing or has the most butthurt owners. And I'm going to argue with this one, it's definitely the most polarizing we've had so far.
Oh, is it? It is quite impressive.
You could say that.
So let's get into the Mustang. We get to drive it. You and I have been told, and we've talked about on other podcasts previously, that the future is electric cars.
Wait, is it?
It's what we've been told. And
it's weird. It's weird because whenever I look at any automotive news outlet, the headline is always about how something is going to be electric and gas is dead.
Yes. And so we were excited to drive it because, Tesla's been out there for a while, and sure, they're getting a bunch of publicity, but they're not a car manufacturer. They're becoming one. They're becoming a good one.
Wait. They're not a car. Well, do tell, Craig, because I can already tell you right now, the emails are being written in the background by our listeners.
I can hear the keyboards clicking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a little unfair. They are a car manufacturer, okay, but they're in Tesla, the company at large, is into a lot a things. Okay,
they're an idea company first, and a car company second. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
And they're getting better at making cars, and they are a legit car manufacturer, but they have not followed any of the old car manufacturer molds. They don't even have a dealer network. There's a lot of things they don't do, and they're trying to learn, which means they've had a lot of quality issues. And as much as exciting as those cars are, there's some issues. So the Mustang Mach-E is not the first domestic electric car to come out, or necessarily mass-produced electric car to come out, but it's the first domestic electric car that a manufacturer's really getting behind and making a bunch of. That's not just an economy box. They're trying to make it for more than just saving the environment. They want it to be. They use the Mustang name. They want it to be fun to drive, and so that's why we're so interested in it.
So I would argue that it's the first fun. By the way, based on your monotone responses about it, we can tell you're excited about it, Craig. It's the first fun domestic electric car. That's my take on it. And because like you said a minute ago, Tesla has started from the Roadster that Top Gear famously had an issue with, and
it was a Lotus.
Yeah, they sent it to the moon because that was the best place for it apparently. And kidding. They've done a lot of great things for the electric market. They've really transformed the electric market. Something that General Motors tried to do way back in 2000. Right. But nonetheless, as a gearhead, you and I are conflicted with the electric car because when we read these headlines, the Tesla is the next best thing to a Hellcat, or better, depending on who's written the article, right? And so I get into this Mach-E thinking, all right, we were in the mid-range, so the 88 kilowatt battery, all-wheel drive, but not the GT. And I thought to myself, this is going to be kind of the V6 of the Mustang lineup. Not the four-cylinder, but it's not the V8, right? And it was about that. It while its numbers were good, it was 0 to 60 and 4.8. It didn't.
That's really good. What do you mean? What do you mean they were good? Just good? They were good. 4.8. That's fast, isn't it?
Yeah, but Tesla's knocking down 2-second numbers, right? And so in retrospect, it's quick, but it's not the quickest. Okay, and the GT
But
is going
compared
to
to a
be
gas car, it's fast, right?
okay. But a Mustang GT gasoline, a traditional Mustang, not a
No, you
Mach-E.
just said this is the Mustang V6.
Bear with me. A
Okay.
Mustang GT, a normal one, which is run of the mill and priced less than this is, can be had, is cracking 3.9 to 60. And so what I'm getting at is that cars are just fast nowadays. That EcoBoost F-150 we drove was just barely slower than the Mach-E. So,
Yeah, that's amazing.
and actually my takeaway when we left the car was this feels a lot like the F-150 in terms of propulsion. And so when a run-of-the-mill V6 pickup truck is doing the same thing, I don't feel like it's special when we're done with it. So,
And you're just talking about the acceleration part.
oh yeah, I'm not talking about the rest of the car because there's merit there. And also, I'm not talking about the GT. We haven't driven that yet. It might blow our socks off. But as our first test on brake check for an electric car, I was left wanting a little bit because I keep getting told, oh, gearheads will love this because it's fast. Well, okay. Golf carts are fast from 0 to 3 miles an hour as well. But beyond that, a lawnmower is more exciting because there's visceral noise going along with it. So, just for reference, I still appreciate a gas engine. And that's my takeaway. Now, all that nonsense aside, and I think you said this in the review actually, what a great interior that car had.
I think so.
And what a cool design overall, inside and out, and really comfortable. The seating positions were great in there, and I do want to commend that. So, as much fun as we're going to make fun of electric cars because that's just our nature, there's a lot of merit, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of this down the road. But for now, while it has a horse on it on the front, and people are going to argue this all day long, it's not a Mustang. It's not, by the way, check the comment section. Everyone claims it's not a Mustang. And I'm here to tell you, it's not a Mustang in the traditional sense, which we addressed in the review. But Ford has taken some marketing equity and applied it to what was going to be a boring electric car and has made it more fun. And so I'm glad that they've used that effort. And now you could have called it a Mach-E and not put the horse on it. It would have been just as good. It's probably what I feel like they should have done. But they didn't, and that's okay because they've come away with a much more interesting electric car. It's not a Nissan Leaf. It's not a Volt or a Bolt, which those are good cars, but they're not marketed as fun cars. And so hats off to Ford for going down that road. I'm glad they did it that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and we've talked about some of Ford's marketing strategies before. You talked about the Mustang equity, so much so that I'm trying to think back now on the card. Was there a Ford logo, blue oval, anywhere on that?
No, I checked. Not anywhere.
Okay, I didn't think there was. The steering wheel, the badge on the back, and everything was the Mustang pony. So okay, now you talked about the Texas sports car part of it.
Mm-hmm.
From a dig, it's good.
Yeah.
But then it runs out of steam quick. And yes, you touched on the interior. Honestly, I think that's the most impressive thing about that car. Ford did a great job of designing a cool-looking and neat interior crossover, and they executed it well. I honestly wish this was just the Explorer or the Edge, and we could get gas motors in it. I think that would be awesome. But
yeah, me too.
not that there's anything necessarily wrong with the electric motors. Our expectation was so high. It's like when you go to watch a movie and you're just told it's the best thing on the planet, and then you go watch it and you're like, it wasn't that great. I mean, it was good, but that feels like that.
That's exactly it, I think. Because we walked in with this. If I walked in comparing it to a fully electric Prius or a Leaf, I would be blown away. But I walked into it comparing it to a performance-ish electric car, which Tesla in any form gets praised for. It does the diesel thing. It's all grunt out of the hole, and then it just falls on its face. And so, granted, I don't understand why electric cars don't have gearboxes.
I don't either. But I don't understand the engineering behind the lack of that.
Me neither. I don't know if it's just we want to keep it simple. But the Porsche Taycan has it, and that's how it mops the floor with Tesla's numbers currently. So it has a 2-speed gearbox. So clearly there's merit to a gear ratio. Because gas engines do it to multiply torque. That's why they feel fast when they change gears still. They don't fall on their face.
And I have a feeling we'll start to see that come into electric cars. We're in the early stages of these electric cars, and that's one of the things they haven't figured out yet that they do need. I think that'll help a lot. Okay,
I
so
think you're right.
and I don't want to talk a whole lot about it, but I do want to talk a little bit about the economy side of it because I think we talked about it ad nauseum, and actually we talked about it even more than what we put in the video. But
Yeah, we cut a lot out.
I don't want to put people to sleep with more numbers. But
Look, when I was editing that, I dozed off several times. I'm not sure if I cut it or if my face just hit the keyboard and cut it.
and if you want to see more numbers, read the comments. But
Oh, yeah, but we're wrong about everything, apparently.
a lot of mathematicians out there, and I'm
Yeah.
very glad we got them. So, but the bottom line, Brian, is we basically determine, and the comments don't even disprove this, but the bottom line is it's a energy efficient vehicle, relatively speaking, to its comparable, what a Ford Edge would be, or another crossover gas would be, or even an efficient gas car. It's really efficient, and give or take 50 to 60 miles per gallon. That's basically what you're getting in this thing.
Yeah.
Is the good gas equivalent.
When you equate the energy cost to dollars and the gasoline energy cost to dollars, it's the equivalent of 50 or 60 miles a gallon in our region, depending on the season.
In our region, at the current electricity rates.
Right.
So obviously that changes as electricity goes up or down and as gas goes up or down. But as far as dollars spent, that's where it's at this moment. So,
And by the way, I reviewed the comment section today, and I pulled the math out of it, and I applied our math to it. And the only variable I really found, for the record, was the rate of energy cost used in the equation. And so depending on what your rate is in your area, then it changes. But beyond that, I mean, it was basically a reiteration of what was said in the video.
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. To clear things up for those that maybe are confused, we mentioned 13 cents in the video, but we also mentioned that we locally pay about 9 cents.
Yeah.
And we felt like it was unfair to run the numbers on 9 cents because most people aren't paying 9 cents. And so the U.S. average is 13, Texas average is 12, so we didn't use that number.
Right.
But if we did, this thing is even more efficient if you use only 9 cents. So it's a fair point.
But if you use 24 cents, which some regions of the country are using, then all of a sudden gasoline
is almost more efficient.
Granted, gas prices are probably higher in that region too, so maybe it's
That's
not
true.
apples to apples. But it is interesting how much it affects it. So anyways, not to dwell on electricity.
No, but the bottom line there is it's an efficient vehicle, but that's another one of those deals where it's just like your performance, and this is what I want to touch on, is we had these huge expectations that it's, oh my gosh, it's almost free to drive. And while it's it's definitely cheaper, there's no doubt. No way, however you spin it, it's cheaper. It's not that much cheaper.
Yeah, well, it's cheaper right now. I mean, I'm really glad you brought this up because part of the misnomer of electric cars, going back to the 2000s, early 2000s, is that people go, oh, I don't have to go to the gas pump anymore. I just plug it in at home. And what that subconsciously tells people is that, oh, I'm not paying for gas anymore or energy costs to transport this vehicle or all my things and myself. That's not the case. And that's really what we were trying to strike in the episode, is that your power bill for the case study we presented is going to be $80 more a month.
Yeah.
And to some, that's shocking. And to others, it kind of makes sense because it's still cheaper than gas, right? Because gas comparably would be over $100 a month. So depending on how you calculate it, it's $20 to $40 a month savings. I did the math today on what I consider accurate rates in our space. And over a year's time, do you know how much you save, Craig?
No, go ahead.
$460.
And that's a good chunk for somebody.
Sure, but when you're spending $50,000, is it really? I don't know. I don't know that this one's the best example of it. Is what I'm saying.
If you can afford the Mach-E, $450 is nothing.
Well, I'm saying if you afford the Mach-E,
awesome Mustang,
you don't give a crap about that $400. You care about it because it's something new and different. And also in this
and that's
math,
okay too.
Right. Oh, it's totally okay. We're also not equating for the fast charger at home that you're definitely going to want if you buy an electric car, and that applies to all electric cars. So,
and it's about $2,000. So
yeah, exactly. So if you own it for 4 years, you're going to break even. If you own it for 10 years and don't ever need to change batteries, then you're going to come out ahead.
Okay, I don't want to dwell on these electric cars because I'm getting sleepy. But I do want to bring up one more point.
Oh boy.
So this is a very polarizing vehicle for two reasons: the Mustang part and the whole electricity part, because it's finally bringing it to the masses. That's what this car is doing. This is just like when Ford brought the car to the masses with the first one. of the
yeah.
Model T.
Yeah.
This is kind of almost seriously like that. And now people that used to never even think of one are thinking about it. And so sometimes polarizing is bad. I think it's good because it's getting people talking about it. And whether you like it or hate it, they're selling everyone they can make at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you think
true.
it's good that this car is polarizing or bad? What do you think?
Look, as much as it bothers me that if you read the headlines, it tells you everything's going to be electric next week, which, as we previously discussed, the market share is 2.5% now. It's probably 5% next year, if that, probably 4%. So as much as I want to criticize that, let me set the record straight. I'm really excited Ford took the risk with this, knowing darn well that a lot of traditionalists are going to go, that's not a Mustang. And every single piece of content they put out in the comment section is going to have, that's not a Mustang down there. But you know what? It's like the old adage, PR is PR, dude, good or bad. You're still in the news, you're in the headline. It's working. Mm-hmm. And they have made something that at least looks and acts more interesting than a traditional green-focused car. The whole time we drove it, nothing screamed eco at all. Mm-hmm. Nothing said green leaves everywhere. There was no theme of economy, even though that's its basis. Its theme was, this is a nice and interesting place to spend time. And so, yes, I'm glad they were polarizing with it, and I'm glad they tried something different.
Yep, I think it was a good move, genius marketing, and it'll be fun to see how it plays out. So,
totally.
Okay, now, before I do fall asleep, let's move on to another topic.
Thank you.
Texas sports cars, and I'm not real sure. You wanted to this is one of your topics. You wanted to talk about this, and I think you wanted to explain, I think what you mean, and I'll let you clarify. I think what you mean is you wanted to explain, you've got sports cars at large or in general, and that means one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we live in the state of Texas, and, well, I'm sure you've heard Texans brag about how big it is. But it is. It's big, and there's a lot of space and a lot of wide open spaces. And so sports cars in Texas mean something a little different. Would you tell us what you mean?
Yes, I'm glad we brought this up. This has been under my skin for a while. Because as an auto journalist and a car fan in general, it's ingrained in me to appreciate a sports car. And that it hits me that our region of the country considers a sports car to be something completely different than the West Coast or the East Coast. And what I mean by that is if you live in Vermont where there's good roads, or NorCal, north of San Francisco, some of the best roads in the country are there, parts of Utah, Mulholland in California, hell, even Nevada has some fun roads out there. You think of Miata, Cayman, Boxster, FRS, BRZ, light, tossable, nimble, Lotus Elise type vehicles. That is what people think of as a sports car in those regions. Maybe a sports coupe to a certain extent, 3 Series, Mercedes, that kind of stuff. But in our region, we don't have good turns. So hot hatches don't make a lot of sense. Sports cars, they all feel slow because it's just straight. There's no exciting corner, or very few exciting corners, unless you go to the hill country. But in the major metro areas of Texas, it's just flat and straight. And so what we see around here, and if you ask someone who's not a car person or isn't even that well versed in cars, or doesn't think of it the same way, they'll go, oh yeah, I got a new sports car. And you look over and it's a Dodge Challenger that weighs almost 5,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to criticize that car, but at the same time, I want to take a second to praise it, because here's the main ones that I consider Texas sports cars. At best, the Corvette, that's the lightest one of any modern generation, C6 and up. V8 Mustangs, V8 Camaros, and V8 Challengers or Chargers.
Yeah.
The reason
Almost,
I bring up
borderline all muscle cars.
Yeah, exactly. Muscle car, pony car to muscle car. That's the spectrum.
Yeah.
And
so no Miatas, no Caymans, no Boxsters, no Lotuses.
Because even though they're quick or fast, they don't make the noise. They don't have the heavy torque, and they don't fit all their guys on I-45. Or I'm sorry, air quotes, Mexico for their street racing. That whole deal. That's really kind of what Texas is made for: is straight and fast, and loud. And we're good at that. A lot of loudmouths out here, right? myself excluded, obviously. So, anyways,
Right.
the point being is that when I discuss sports cars with people here, they don't see it like other parts of the country do. So, I just think our listeners need to understand that perspective plays a role in this. And as much as I love a Miata, I truly love a Miata. I benchmark it as the starting point of driving dynamics at its essence. I also appreciate that 5,000-pound Hellcat out there because it's checking the fun box in a completely different way for the ham-fisted dude that wants to go out to the bar with his buddies and do a burnout leaving the parking lot. And the fun factor is there for a climate that doesn't have good turns, and that's us. That's where we're at. I hate to admit it, but that's our region.
No, you're right, and I have two questions for you on this. I would include this in there. I wonder if you would. Would you also include the big truck? It's either maybe a loud V8 or the diesel. I mean, some of those trucks are quick, just like the Challengers you're talking about.
Oh, totally. Well, I would not include it in the sports car territory, but I would include it in the cool vehicle territory because in our region, like, look, if you grew up in Texas as a kid, muscle cars were king, right?
Yep.
Well, now diesel trucks are king out here because they all make 1,000 foot-pounds of torque from the factory.
Right.
And they can roll coal and all these silly things that people like to do with them. But yeah, so the fun factor is still there, except now they have a full second row of seats in the back and all their buddies can come with them. So I get it. In a straight line, handling doesn't really matter.
I have a paradoxical problem, possibly, for Texas sports car futures.
Uh-oh.
So in this region, and look, there's stereotypes for a reason, right? And I don't want to get in trouble here, but again, I'll dance on that edge. Why not, right? Let's just go ahead. I'm going to get on that edge. Here's the thing. Most, generally speaking, in Texas, we're not too concerned about saving the environment with our cars. I'll just say that. There's pockets, but again, we have wide open spaces, long distances to travel, and we need to travel them quick.
Yep.
And it doesn't usually work real well with electric cars or hybrid cars.
Because we need to get there quick and refuel them quickly.
And we're also blessed in this region to have low energy prices with whether it's electricity or fuel.
Sure.
But here's the paradox that Texas sports car futures are going to have to deal with. They're going to resist that a little bit, but the thing you just mentioned, quick from a dig, quick from a stoplight, just no turns aren't involved, which is what electric cars are not necessarily good at yet, but they're good at accelerating in a straight line. Is that the future Texas sports car?
That is a paradox. I'm glad you brought that up. In certain areas, we have a healthy population of Teslas in this state. We really do. And they are very, very popular for that fact alone. Anyone gets in it. There's no line lock. There's no warming the tires. They just hit it and they go. And I get that. That's real. There's a market that appreciates that, like a diesel truck would be appreciated. And I don't gravitate towards either one of them because I still like the Miata down low, or at least a high revving V8 that's visceral. So, while I wouldn't call it a sports car, I would still call it, a highway king. That's what we look for out here, straight and fast. And I think it fits in that category. Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because I think that's kind of something that goes against each other, but they are both liked by completely different people for different reasons. So, we'll see how that plays out.
Should be interesting. Let's revisit this in a year or two and see what we're looking like.
We'll see. Okay, new segment for us. One of the things we love about the channel is we get some awesome comments on our videos.
Yes, we do.
And you and I, mostly you, I'll chime in every now and then when you get behind. We'll reply to as many comments as possible, or at least like them. We'll try to at least do something.
Yeah,
and
we do read all of them no matter what.
We do read all of them, and they're entertaining. So we have a smart audience, we have a funny audience, and we have some keyboard warriors out there, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd just dig through some recent comments, and I'm going to share one of my favorites, and you're going to share one of your favorites. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
How about you go first? Yeah, you go first with this one. Let's do that.
Okay, I'm going to go first. This comes from, I'm not going to leave their first name out in case they don't want me to share it, but their handle was Jay Lozano, and this is on the FX4 F-150 review we did recently. And I'm not real sure what his comment means here, so maybe you can help me out. It says, "Please don't tell me you like that rotor knobs. That is for girls."
I remember
Brian,
this.
I think he's talking about the four-wheel drive selector on that truck.
It's either that or the drive modes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one he's talking about, but here's why this is funny to me, and I love this comment. Number one, I don't know why. I'm not sure what he means by the comment. I don't know why a rotor knob would be for girls. I'm confused by that part.
Why is it gender notated? Like,
I don't know what that has to do. So I'm really confused by that.
Sure.
But here's what I like: a little background, a little behind the scenes. We were so, and you're sitting in the Raptor in your studio right now, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Would you explain to me how you select four-wheel drive in it?
You grab the knob and you twist it to the right.
Okay, it's got a knob and you twist it, right? There's no buttons.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. So I remember we were reviewing a GMC Sierra. And the four-wheel drive modes, you selected by not twisting a knob, hitting a button. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you're like, I can't. What? I don't understand. What buttons? It needs to be a knob, not buttons. It needs to be a knob. I'm like, dude, the new Fords have buttons. They're like, no, they're not. No, they're. And we got in that FX4, and I go, look, buttons. So,
look, I have to confess, after we shot that GMC and we got home, I Googled the 21 Ford and went, oh, crap. It's buttons.
It's just funny to me because I don't know why buttons or knobs matter on a four-wheel drive mode selector. But anyways, I thought it was funny, and so that's my comment. So
okay, I've got a little bit of a longer one, and it's it just seems fitting since we're talking Mach-E. Let's pull from that comment section. What do you
okay?
What do you
This
think?
is a fresh one. Fresh one. Let's
fresh.
do it.
Yeah, it's 14 hours old. And I do want to notate that it's been edited by the poster. So
ooh, okay.
It's a long one. Bear with me for a minute. The person involved, we're going to call him T. Jones, okay?
Okay.
So, and I'll edit some of this just for the kids out there. Okay. Woo! What the beep is that? Exclamation point, question, exclamation. It goes on for a while. That is not a Mustang, all caps. That's garbage, all caps. So let me get this straight. At its heart, this was designed to be an escape, and in an attempt to sway people and try to excite them, you gamble the historic Mustang name on a crossover SUV hunk of electric crap. Exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark. Marketing fail. Ford, do damage control now. Immediately. Okay. So that's actually the precursor. Here's the comment I'm excited about the most. The one after that.
Okay, so far this guy is not happy, and it's a polarizing vehicle. So go ahead.
By the way, he has 8 comments on this video, but this is the one I started with. Someone decides to reply to him. And by the way, I'm reading these throughout the day and decided I can't keep up with this person right now. I'll do some research tonight and get back to them. So I'm just going to read one reply to the guy. Someone else comments after him. We're going to call him AC. You seem like you've been triggered. Are you triggered? You should try to relax and just get over the car's name because it's not changing. So this embodies the majority of, it's kind of a paraphrase of all the posts we've had on this one video. It's been very entertaining. I'll be honest, I'm not going to act like I wasn't expecting it, but I was not expecting this much volume. There are some angry people, and you can check out the Facebook comments too. They're even worse.
What I love is that not only are they angry, they're angry for all the reasons, not just like one or two.
It's not one thing. It's fiber of its being that they're upset at.
Oh, man. Anyways,
so good.
Okay.
Love it.
Well, that's good stuff. I love it. Keep the comments coming.
Keep them coming. I want to caveat that we do actually get some really fun interaction with our viewers, and we get actually some positive comments, quite more than I was ever expecting, and also a lot of really thoughtful, constructive comments, too, that has helped us. focusing some of our videos on things that we don't see as producers. So keep them coming. They're fun. We love them. Post ignorant things, post entertaining things, post insightful things. We read them all.
Yes, we'll read them all, and even the early warning signs of Alzheimer's. So I appreciated that one too.
I forgot about that. Yeah. We've had several, and also you've been a girl many times in the comments. I'm not sure how, but usually because you're like semi-humane in the videos, and I'm just being an idiot. So it is interesting how that plays out. We'll pull some of those up down the road.
Oh man, hilarious. Okay, well let's continue. Next topic, and this is one that I don't know that we'll do every podcast, but we'll probably cycle this one through a lot. So because, well, obviously we have the same dad, but here's the topic: cars you wish your dad never sold. And so we're going to talk about that for us. We have the same dad, and you would think we wouldn't have very many cars to talk about, but
you don't know our dad.
Our dad, as many cars as you've owned and I've owned.
What?
Our dad owned even more. Because he traded them like they were like candy. It was crazy.
Cars were like toothpicks to Dad.
For someone that wasn't like a car dealer, it was amazing. Okay.
Right.
But we want to know, tell us your car that your dad sold that you wish he never sold. We want to know that. Give us some comments.
Okay.
Send us an email. But I'm going to let you go first on this one, and then I'll talk about mine. Because I think mine you didn't even know existed.
Yeah. Okay. So let me. I have two. This is our first time doing this. I want to caveat two, and they're not specific to Dad, but they're specific to my age, more than Dad having the vehicle. So
okay,
the vehicle that I wish he never sold as a kid, because he sold it when I was a kid, is a 1962 Chrysler Imperial, and I love this car desperately. And I remember at the time we had, correct me if I'm wrong here, we had a 56 Dodge Texan that was green and white, and then we had this Imperial that was just white, and
Imperial Crown.
Imperial Crown, thank you. Someone's going to correct it. A sedan, and I remember it had, it had no pillars. It had no B pillar.
It was a hardtop.
It was a hardtop
sedan.
So when the windows were down, there was no pillar between the front and rear seats. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And, we're a little older, Craig. We're in our 30s, and when we were kids, seatbelts, weren't as common, and in this particular vehicle, didn't have them in the rear seat. So,
so great.
You and I, as adolescent maniacs, loved it because we could just, be our normal moron selves in the back. It was a hoot. I also remember the trunk being big enough for our entire family if we needed to for some reason, and had the coolest bullet-looking, spaceship-looking taillights I've ever seen to this day. So, if you get a chance,
I remember Dad being so afraid of us breathing or looking at those taillights funny, because if they broke, and they looked like they would break at any minute, he had no clue where he was going to find those. So,
well, and I also remember us going to, if anyone's around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they may remember the Pate Swap Meet.
Oh, yes.
And we would hunt down wheel covers. I remember we bought wheel covers for several cars that we already had the wheel covers, so he was convinced they were going to disappear one day. And he was ready.
We had a lot of those.
Yeah, and by the way, you've done that as an adult too, which is pretty funny. Not the swap meet part, but the hoarding of wheel covers. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my kid one, and I've got one more I want to get at.
Okay.
That I wish Dad had not sold. It really comes down to the Celica Supra.
I almost mentioned that one.
Okay, and you remember this more than I do because
he had several of those.
Right, and I know them through photographs. And, when I was a kid, I went through Dad's old pictures a lot, and I found the car pictures, and I kind of cataloged them at one point. Because these were all cars that you witnessed in memory, and I was too young to remember, or they were gone before I showed up. Right. And, you have the memory of Dad picking you up from school and you not being totally sure what it was going to be, right? So
and my next car I'll talk about is exactly that issue. But yes.
Okay. I was hoping you would tell that story. So, anyways, the Celica Supra is a super cool car to me. A Supra cool car to me, and it's actually a trim level on the Celica. At the time, It was an inline six. Could get a 4-cylinder, but it was also inline six, manual, non-turbo. Really neat. If you find one today, it probably still runs, but has no interior left in it because it's just totally given up.
Yes.
But being a Toyota from that generation, it will probably still run. So those are really cool.
Right.
Wish I got to know that car better. I know you did, but I wish I had. But anyways, what was yours, Craig? What's in your memory?
Well, before I get to mine, that Supra was, of course, as we've gotten older and the Supra has gone up in value, I had no clue how special that car was when we were riding around in it.
Yeah.
But what was really neat to me was that was really the first sports car I was ever introduced to.
Okay.
Because it was a manual, it was low slung, it was a 2-seater, it had those louvers on the back window, made it look really, in the 80s, that was a big deal. I mean, that thing, like, you're supposed to drive that thing with driving gloves. It was cool. I thought it was cool. It wasn't the turbo, it wasn't the 2JZ, but it was the 6-cylinder, and that was pretty neat. So,
yeah.
Okay. So you talked about Dad always having something different, and when you got picked up from school, if you didn't ride the bus and he was picking you up, you weren't real sure what he was driving. In fact, if our dad was ever late coming home, we didn't have to worry about him doing something he shouldn't have been doing. Well, maybe he shouldn't have been doing. I don't know. But most likely, he was coming home with a different vehicle.
Right.
Is what that meant. Okay.
Yeah, it was
So
nothing sinister. It was just a habit of buying too many old cars.
Well, Mom may say it's sinister. I don't know. But anyways.
Maybe.
Our spouses may say the same thing. But anyways.
Probably.
Okay, so I'm at school. I'm getting picked up. And he was a little late, but not too late. And I'm like, I bet your dad's got a new car today. And lo and behold, did he have a new car. And not one that we expected. So up until this point, he had one truck, but didn't have it very long. He had a full-size Dodge.
Yeah,
but he got rid of that and had a bunch of cars. The Supras was one of those. But then he pulls up in this one day. Now, one of his buddies owned a used car lot at the time. And so there was a lot of car swapping then.
Yeah.
And so he decided at one point he was going to get this. He drove it home and had it signed off. It was his. It was a 1986 Nissan 720 or Datsun 720 King Cab 4x4.
Oh, the pickup.
The tall, off-road specific, could go anywhere. At least it looked like it could go anywhere pickup. And I thought it was the coolest freaking thing because he pulled up and it was white and it had like the graphics on the side of it, which made it any sport graphic you could put on that thing, it was on there.
Yeah.
It had the KC lights, had the off-road tires. It was hard for me to get into, so tall. And it was so out of character for Dad and all the other land yachts we had from the old cars and sports cars at the time.
Yeah.
It was like, what is this? I mean, it was so, just out of character for what we usually had. And I thought it was the coolest thing. Now, that vehicle did not last long. I don't know. Who knows? I was a kid. I don't remember real well, but probably had it for about a week and then said, okay, I'm not driving this piece of crap and give it back. Because in reality, as cool as I thought it was, and as a kid, I just remember thinking that 4-wheel drive shift knob was the greatest thing on the planet. I'm like, Dad, what is that knob? What does that do? Oh,
yeah.
That's 4-wheel drive. What's 4-wheel drive? I just thought that was the coolest thing. So there's that. And then, but in reality, I looked this truck up a little because I almost forgot about this thing, but we were thinking about this topic for the podcast. Like, I almost forgot about that truck. I want to look it up. It's terrible. It had a 2. It rode terrible. It was rough.
Okay.
I remember as a kid it riding rough. Okay. It had a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder with about 106 horsepower, Brian.
Oh,
so
when it was new.
It was tall, bouncy, and slow. So I think the reason he only had it for a week and you never heard much about it is because I'm pretty sure he hated it.
So I'm really glad you mentioned the ride because I'm making predictions as you're explaining this truck. And I'm thinking back on Dad and his vehicle choices in my lifetime. And he had one 4-wheel drive vehicle in my lifetime. And it was one that I sold him. And he hated the way it rode.
Was that Zeus?
That was Zeus. And we'll talk about that in another episode. But when you mentioned this Datsun pickup, the first thing I thought was he can't drink coffee with that. He doesn't give a crap about off-roading. Never has. He likes playing in the mud, but he doesn't give a crap enough. He'd rather just do burnouts, And
right.
And oddly enough, Dad was actually a sports car just aficionado that I had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes back to the Texas sports cars. When I was in high school, it was about the WS6 Trans Am. It was about the New Edge Mustang GTs. And 03 Cobra, you know, hold my beer, I got to check this out kind of thing. Whereas Dad just didn't give a crap because they were all heavy and they drove poorly. And he just kind of knew better. Or knew something I didn't know better. He knew something I didn't, which I didn't learn until I was further along in life, that there's something to be said about weight. And so it's pretty cool. This is a fun topic. I hope we bring this back. Good call.
Because there's a lot of cars to go through.
Yeah.
In fact, I've thought about 10 more since we've been sitting here. I'm like, I forgot about that one and this one and that one.
Yeah.
So this will be entertaining. So, anyways, let us know what car you wish your dad never sold, or your mom that you wish she never sold. I think this, or maybe a grandparent. Who knows? Lots of fun cars there as kids, And the fun thing about this topic is, as kids, you remember these cars, and they're just larger than life.
Yeah.
And then what's fun is to look back on them and realize what piles of were. So, anyways, I'll try to bleep that out. Sorry, but there you go. With that, we have episode 6 is in the books, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. And I know there's other stuff I was supposed to say, but that's what you're here for, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for listening. If you want to send us any notes or questions, or just tell us how crazy we are or ignorant we are, we're on all the social stuff, or check out BrakeCheckShow.com. We can reach us there.